What is up, fellas? JPS delivers here. We're actually doing something new. We're going to be looking at this basketball slate for tonight. Cool. It's a cool little slate. I mean, Friday night is always going to be set up for TV to favor NBA. Obviously, it's coming off Thursday night football. I don't think there's really anything that's worth the shit when it comes to watching college football on a Friday night. Maybe some action or something like that, a MAC game. But it's yeah, unless you live in Ohio, I don't think you're going to be too invested in some action. But yeah, we're going to give a nice little look out here for the 9 game slate. I already have reserved lineups in DK tonight. Balance is 0 so far. That yeah, I just just throwing a little bit of money at stuff and just see how it goes tonight. I already got my lineups reserved and everything like that. So we're just gonna be going through this. I know there's about what it says right there. Contest goes live in 2 hours 25 minutes. So I usually like to wait to really clear up my lineups and everything like that. I use the Fantasy Pros lineup optimizer. I just like to use the tool because it's easy to develop just multiple lineups without you having to go one by one by one. It's there to make it for you. It's not the best at optimizing the salary. Sometimes you do have to look up the remaining salary on some of the lineups. So if you want to use like a Roto Grinders or like a Daily Roto or something like that, I know Daily Roto is pretty pricey compared to most. I mean, paying what roughly like $400-$500 with a promotion for an entire like NBA season, NFL season, stuff like that. But hey, if you're one of those guys that's already spending thousands of dollars on daily fantasy, that is not me. I do not have that money to expense yet until I start, legitimately winning really, really good money and building upon that. But this is definitely something new. I've done it for a couple years now, just doing quarter lineups and stuff like that. But I do have like $1 entries. I prefer to do the 20 entry maxes because I think at that point you can really, really take advantage of just some people just not trying to be ballsy enough. Because I think with when you're looking at, especially if you're jumping into fantasy for the first time, daily fantasy, do not do the like 150 entry maxes unless you are really going to do 150 entries, because at that point you're facing people with teams of 150 people. So see, even if you hit really well on a couple pivots in a slate, you're still going to be limited quite a bit by just not spending your full capacity or full potential in a tournament. 150 lineups, like I said, you're going to have people that play just like the biggest punt plays that end up doing it. But, with that being said, you just don't have enough lineups for you to just fully, be comfortable with yourself to make some of these moves. And if you're going to be if you're not going to be putting 150 lineups into a tournament, and you're going to find yourself with 30, 40, 50, maybe 80 lineups, you're still at a huge disadvantage. So I think the thing is that, just stick to what you do when it comes to preparing for this, researching this stuff, such as the matchups, the pace. Injury news is obviously very, very important in the NBA, and it's already hitting us now. There's quite a bit of value tonight, as we're seeing with Enes Kanter being out, with Marvin Bagley's going to be out, which should open things up for a couple players that I'm going to point out in a little bit. But when looking at the slate tonight, it looks really, really interesting. And again, I'm getting fucking sidetracked. But yeah, I just prefer that if you're first getting into it, I think it is beneficial to do uh, probably about 20 lineups and just do it at cheap. I mean, if you do 25 cent lineups, quarter lineups, you can pay $5 for a slate, and you'll still have all the fun you would basically have, especially if it, starting off new, that you would have if you were one of these professionals that do this like on literally daily fantasy on a daily basis, that are just, make a decent amount of money every night. Or, which is the thing with a decent amount of people is that, we see people that win the Millie Maker, which is the nickname for $1 million prize in these huge tournaments for the NFL and stuff. But even them, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that no one's perfect. No one's going to be picking out the best players, knowing the best players, and you watch these fantasy shows. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do what you prefer to do, what you feel most comfortable doing. And sometimes you're going to have to be uncomfortable, because I can guarantee when you look at some of those winning lineups and tournaments, you look at it and you're like, fuck, I don't know how that person felt good making it. And that's part of it, is that you're going to have some players. It's like last week, I remember I was looking at Marvin Jones and I'm like, Kenny Galladay's played pretty well against the Vikings in the past, but Marvin Jones has always played well. And the matchup sets up well to where Detroit's going to be playing from behind and you're going to be sitting there. And I just didn't have the balls to pull the trigger. And Marvin Jones ends up having what, 10 catches, 80 yards, and 4 touchdowns? I mean, 4 touchdowns. He already had 4x, which X meaning 4 times his salary because he was $5,000. He had 24 fantasy points just from touchdowns already, and then make it 34 with the catches, and then make it over 40 with the yards. It's just crazy stuff like that. And when you're approaching tournaments, that's the whole thing. Is that people make the distinction between cash lineups, and cash lineups are the name given for like 50-50s, which people consider double ups. That's where the prize pool is pretty basically given to the top 45%, top 50 if it's rake free, and rake being the money that goes towards a DraftKings, towards a FanDuel, those type of websites, so they can make money on each of the tournaments. That's why if you ever look at the very, very beginning when you're like, oh man, my lineups just are live now, and let's say it's a 6 o'clock slate, and you're looking at your lineups, that's why if you put $5 worth of lineups, 80% of your money already goes, or sorry, one, what was it? Shit. I think it's like $5, and then $4.20 is the amount of money you're winning just from tying with everybody else, because the slate games haven't officially started yet, so everybody's tied for winning the money. So I guess that would make it what, 42 out of 50. That would make it like an 18% rake. Would that be the case? I think 20 would make it, and then 18%. I think so. Yeah. So like looking at it on DraftKings, $5, 18% is already going towards DraftKings of the stuff. So with that's just how it starts off and everything like that. But when you're looking at a tournament, especially a slate like this and stuff, there's a lot of injury news, which means that there's going to be a lot of value opened up. And you're going to have to make some pivots to where you don't feel most comfortable with it. And I think when looking at it, there's a couple pivots I've already found, and I've commented on other people's stuff, people with way more followers than myself, way more, insight, way more, they've done way more research. They're better at this than I am. But just opening this up for the first time, because I know I usually focus on NFL and I'm pretty good at it. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. It's just I just recommend having 20 entries to where because people are not going to get ballsy enough on 20 entries when they're putting in 20 entries, because they're going to be scared to play certain players and be like, oh man, well that guy could easily flop and he could do bad for me. Well, that's the whole point. I mean, is that all you need is one lineup out of 20 to get you, you know, $25 out of a dollar lineup, and you've already made money. And that's why I was saying about the millie makers. Some of these guys just win it 1 or 2 times, and that's all. That's all you need to fucking do is just win it once, and that's $1 million in your pocket, and you'll be able to pay for all the times you've ever put money towards DraftKings, unless you have a serious fucking gambling issue. But yeah, that's just what it is. You need to play a couple players that most people are not willing to play. Hell, there's a ton of people that even play cash type lineups of players that are for sure going to be chalky, and chalkies represent players with the high ownership. And when you're playing a tournament, you obviously want to aim at players that are in great spots but that are not being noticed well enough. So let's go ahead and jump into it for this one, looking at a couple of players. Point guard positions, what I'm liking. So we see right away the top four, or I guess let's say top six, because Drew Holiday and Booker both priced at the same. Um, you're looking at LeBron James, 9,500. It's a low price compared to what we're used to. LeBron James. LeBron James every time is usually around 10,500, 10,500 to around 11,000. And he's LeBron James. He carries that name for him, rightfully so. And I think if Bojan's out tonight, that makes it interesting. He could go under the radar, because I do feel like two of the chalkier matchups you're going to see right here, two of the chalky plays at point guard tonight are going to be Luka and Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie Irving, he's playing at home again. I think it was at home. They weren't playing Minnesota on the road, I don't think, but he's playing at home. Kyrie Irving, we saw him put up 50 points It's quite impressive if you ask me. I mean, it's Kyrie Irving doing Kyrie Irving things. He's one of the better finishers, if not the best finisher at the rim at the point guard position in the NBA. I mean, LeBron James is considered a point guard for this, and he does play the point quite a bit. But I mean the actual build of a type of physique for a point guard. Kyrie Irving's one of the best at doing it, and he goes up against a Knicks team. I mean, it's a good matchup, man. It's a good to great matchup. DeJounte Murray went off last week or 2 nights ago on Wednesday. Played a really good game. And DeJounte Murray is one of my favorite players in the NBA. I'm a Spurs fan. I'm from San Antonio. And it's just awesome to see. It's unfortunate because I thought he was going to have a breakout last year and ends up tearing his ACL. But it's a great matchup against the Knicks, and he completely exploits it, getting like what 5 or 6 steals to go along with 20 points. I mean, Kyrie Irving is 10 times the scorer of DeJounte Murray, and with a matchup to where when we're going to look at it too for some value, I like Elf Payton. Elf Payton's one of the worst defenders in basketball, so Kyrie Irving could totally ruin that for him and just have another big scoring game. But at the same time, he has high ownership, and at the end of the day, I don't know if I feel comfortable enough putting in, and this is what I mean by the 20 entry max right here, is that there's going to be quite a bit of people that playing Kyrie Irving at 9,000, and his price went up quite a bit because he was what high 7,000s last time, and I didn't even play him last time. But I'm not going to chase it. Don't ever chase players' great games necessarily unless they, injuries put them in a spot with their team to where they're going to have high usage and they're going to be playing at least 35 minutes to 40 minutes a game. And it just, with the high ownership, it just scares you away. So we're looking at Kyrie and Luka Doncic as really good plays on this slate, but they are priced right around just the top of the position. They're going to get a lot of ownership. Don't get me wrong, Luka. If that game was close against Washington, I played Luka in all my lineups on Wednesday, and he still almost got. His price a little bit down than it was. I mean, it's only down 200, so not a huge difference. But playing New Orleans, which should be another great matchup. Um, Lonzo, I don't know if Lonzo's going to try to guard him or Drew Holiday, but it's still, I know a lot of people consider their defense really good, but in itself, I think they're more of guys who get a decent amount of steals, which increases their defensive rating. I think New Orleans has been known as a team that you attack on the wings. So Luka, hey, if you want to play him or play Kyrie, go ahead. It's just at the end of the day, don't be surprised if they don't get you to 6x, which is what you basically look for, is 6 times your salary to get near a good spot, and maybe even 7x, especially when you hit value players. You need to have them hit the lower price value players to hit around 7 to 8x, maybe even 10x. Sometimes guys get what 12 to 15 times their price point at value, which is why it ends up becoming chalky to have one of these Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irvings. But when looking at it too, is that you want to be able to pivot away from that to where if there's some value, you have to just lock in sometimes. It's like Luke Cornett last year played a decent amount of games for Lauri Markkanen, and when he filled in, I mean, that guy went like 20x some games. It was crazy. It's crazy. He had like 60 points in games, fantasy points in games. But even then, when you are playing that, value, chalky value that you just got to eat up, you have to find other ways to pivot off of this. And I think one of the best pivots for this entire slate is Damian Lillard. He's going to be going up against Sacramento. They just lost to Denver, and Denver, had Jokic out for, Jokic usually plays at least 35 minutes a game. And even then, I mean, they still lost that game. Whiteside had a good game. But the reason really why I like Damian Lillard is because it's an excellent matchup. The pace is going to be up. Don't look at that opponent rank. Don't really. Ricky Rubio just had a great game against De'Aaron Fox, and De'Aaron Fox is one of the worst defenders in basketball. He was last year, and Sacramento loves to push up the pace, and especially if Bagley's going to be out, the pace should be even more because the game's going to go a little bit smaller. And I know Bijalisa is basically the same size usually as Bagley, but Bagley's is an impressive post player, and I think with him being out, the pace is going to even be favored more and more to play it, especially if Sacramento's at home. They're going to drive the pace as the home team. I think Damian Lillard is going to be in every one of my lineups. Let's go ahead and just put him in for lineup building right there. Drew Holiday, he could do well in this matchup. He had a dud against Toronto, but it looked like he was just trying to help other players get involved in the game. But in itself, I still don't like it all too much. Devin Booker, we're seeing him not get as many assists as the past like 2 seasons when he was playing as a primarily as the point guard, with his usage really high. I mean, now you got Kelly Oubre and Ricky Rubio eating into that usage, and I don't really like Devin Booker tonight. I'm going to go ahead and just fade him. Just especially because I think Damian Lillard is in an excellent spot, and if there's a possibility I play Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, I don't even know if I'll play Kyrie. I might fade Kyrie and play a little bit of Spencer Dinwiddie, who had great usage off the bench. I think that doesn't get looked at enough is players that play off the bench. Um, that's why a decent amount of people thought Nicholas Batum was interesting, because with those injuries to Charlotte, Nicholas Batum was going to have even more usage off the bench and still play 30 minutes in the game, but he got injured, unfortunately. And yeah, excellent job of that contract. Again, beautiful trade right there or was it a trade or was it free agency that they got him? But I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. When the money is still on the line, he hasn't been able to produce for it. But Devin Booker, and he's also going to be guarded by Gary Harris, which slow him down quite a bit. Not totally. He could still score 20, 30 points in this game, but still, scoring 30 points isn't going to get you to, 50 to 60 fantasy points in a game, especially because Ricky Rubio is going to be dishing out a ton of assists, taking away that usage. And I think Kelly Oubre is going to be getting more rebounds than Devin Booker even is. And Devin Booker isn't being known as a really aggressive defender at all, and let alone a defender at all. Doesn't look like he exists sometimes. De'Aaron Fox, he's in a good matchup against Dame Lillard, but he just didn't look good the other night. And even with Bagley out, it seemed like the usage went to other players instead of De'Aaron Fox. He might be interesting if Buddy Hield is to also sit, but I think there's another player that we should just lock into all lineups tonight if both Bagley and a guy that I already like anyways with Bagley, and I think I'll have him in every lineup anyways, um, with Bagley out, but a guy that should get a little bit more ownership, especially if Buddy Hield plays, but I think that would be good chalk because he's going to be priced well. Kemba Walker playing Toronto. I just don't like the price points of Fox and Walker around here, especially because you have Donovan Mitchell and Zach LaVine right here, especially and also Chris Paul as well. Chris Paul's in a great matchup. Washington's going to be another team like last season that we're going to exploit quite a bit. They're just terrible defensively. Kyle Lowry, it's going to be a competitive spot, so you could play Kyle Lowry. Mike Conley did not play many minutes last time in what seemed to be a decently competitive game against OKC. A little bit of blowout at some point. But still, though, I think Donovan Mitchell. It's you're not going to if you're going to play Donovan Mitchell in one lineup. Make sure you have some sort of rule in your building that you can't have Mike or you can't have Mike and Donovan in the same lineup because it's just going to eat into each other. It's not going to work. Terry Rozier, I don't like it. It's good matchup, but still though, Karis LeVert. I think with Kyrie there, Karis LeVert, it was even more usage taken away from him compared, and especially too, I love Shea SGA against Washington, a terrible defense. So if you want to play Chris Paul and SGA, I wouldn't blame you for it. I know Jay Morant is in a good spot against Chicago as well. So I like those players more than a Conley, a Rozier, a Levert, an SGA, a Jay Morant. Also, too, you could look at Jamal Murray right here. I know CJ McCollum is it's good play, but I'm already playing Damian Lillard in every one of my lineups. I think you just need to. He's Damian Lillard's just one of the best players when you want to look at great players who can win you tournaments, because he plays in Portland, which is a West Coast team. And people tend to have a bias towards playing earlier games sometimes, just so they can like not be bored around 6 o'clock, so they can look at their phone and see them in the money at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. But Damian Lillard just comes in and scores 60, 70 points, fantasy points. Hell, he could have a Kyrie Irving game tonight to where he scores 50 points against De'Aaron Fox, and it sure looks like his scoring's gonna. He could score up to 30 points per game this season with Cantor and Nurkic out, because Cantor more of an offensive post kind of guy compared to a Whiteside, where Whiteside's going to be there for rebounds and stuff, and he could add to Lillard's ability to get assists, maybe an alley-oop or just a quick dish to him to the basket. We saw with 8 assists last game in that loss against Denver, and he still scored 32 points. And yeah, they lost, and that was against Denver, which isn't the biggest pace team ever. I mean, every time they tend to play, they seem to go under the over/under bets for the game. So Lillard's just an excellent spot. I can't say it enough. SGA's right there. I would prefer him and Jay Morin over, Rozier, Levert, even Jamal Murray or CJ McCollum. Lonzo Ball's a guy that I locked into all my lineups to play Toronto, and he just wasn't getting the minutes. It's just annoying. It's again, he could bounce back. Dallas is not the best against point guards. We saw Ish Smith get a decent amount of usage in that game. RJ Barrett's in a good spot as well. Fred Van Vliet, part of me wants to fade him in this one because um, the the matchup's not going to be nearly as good as it was against New Orleans. I know his usage is up there. I know he's priced up now. But even then, I think people are still going to be chasing that game, and I think it could be in another spot to where people get let down because I think there is better value than him at that certain position, because you will need to pay up at different positions on this slate when we're looking at it a little bit later. Um, Jeff Teague, no, it just seems more of the Carl Anthony Towns in this offense, and especially too. Speaking of Van Vliet and fading him, I mean Ricky Rubio and Ish Smith right here. I know they're $700 priced apart, but they're in great spots. I mean, just Rubio looked great, and he's going to have a great matchup against this Denver team. And Phoenix, they look way more competitive this season. They have a really, not even a confident coach. They just have an actual good coach, Monty Williams. Monty Williams, when he was coach of New Orleans, I'm pretty sure they made the playoffs a couple times. And we've seen what New Orleans' organization is like, the fact that he was able to do that there. I mean, it just seems that Monty Williams is one. I mean, he's a Greg Popovich tree guy. He's looking like one of the better coaches that might actually make Phoenix a better team to come. They had a huge blowout against Sacramento, which you always look at for possibly Portland, but I think Sacramento is going to play better in this coming game, especially at home. Phoenix looks more competitive, so I do think that it will be more of a competitive game than we've seen in the past between Denver and Phoenix. So Ricky Rubio is a great play for value. So, and I think Ish Smith is a good, nice pivot and to play at value, because I think he's going to have to play a ton of minutes, because he played 25 minutes last game, and that was with Jordan McRae, and because Isaiah Thomas has been ruled out again tonight, and Jordan McRae has actually been ruled out tonight. And I know Rajon Rondo is expected to play against Utah. It could be interesting right there. It could be a player that you can put in a couple of lineups. But I just like Ricky Rubio right here. Ish Smith. Ish Smith's going to probably have about 30 minutes in this game, and Washington likes to push the pace, and they're going to give up some points. So they're going to have to score some points to keep up with it too. And I don't think OKC is good enough to necessarily beat them. I don't think they're as good as Dallas, and Dallas seemed to allow Washington to come back in that game, and Ish Smith was part of the reason for that. Played a good game. Rajon Rondo you could throw in a lineup or two. Maybe that ends up becoming one of the winning players. Who knows? Who knows? He could have 15 assists, 20 assists with that team. Who knows? But I do like Spencer Dinwiddie. He had really good usage. We'll click on him. I know he only played 19 minutes this last game. I believe 19 minutes, but his usage was so high at 14 points in that one. He did have, look at that, 4 personal fouls. That's going to eat into your minutes quite a bit. I like Spencer Dinwiddie to be a pivot off of like a Schroeder type, to where Schroeder's going to, Schroeder didn't shoot amazing either. He was 1 for 8 last game, correct? Yeah. 16 points. He still had 6 rebounds, 4 assists. So he could be a nice pivot off of Schroeder, or Schroeder, as some of those guys say it, just so they can try to tell the masses that they're fucking cultured or something like that. I don't know. But DeLon Wright, I don't like him, or I don't like, especially if you can pay for, an Ish Smith. Ricky Rubio right around the same price, but especially an Ish Smith around the same price. Spencer Dinwiddie around the same price. Schroeder around the same price. No. And then we saw Satoransky not get nearly as many points. And you're seeing a lot of value with these players now. You see how it is with these players. I think I might just fade Luka and or fade LeBron um, and Kyrie, because it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to put in enough of these players at point guard, because there's a lot of good value at point guard that might be overlooked because you're seeing Boston open up value at the center position. You're seeing Phoenix open up value. You're seeing the value open up for the Sacramento Kings. So if you're going to try to get some value at point guard, that might be a big contrarian thing to do. And to win tournaments, you got to be contrarian. So I like playing, the Ricky Rubio, Ish Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dennis Schroeder to play, you know, Elfrid Payton. I mean, Elfrid Payton's in a great spot too. I mean, we saw David Fizdale admit that none of the players' minutes are going to be consistent. However, though, he's going to play the players that he think are doing the best. And Elfrid Payton outplayed Dennis Smith's Dennis Smith looked terrible. He's getting owned by DeJounte Murray and Derek White. He did not look good out there. Only played 11 minutes. I think Elfrid Payton's going to start the game for New York, and I think Elfrid Payton's in a great spot. I mean, we've seen Elfrid Payton before in playing with Julius Randle on the Pelicans before. Uh, just price at what? Do you remember when he was getting triple doubles? Basically, he was one of the best values at like 5,000, 6,000. We're getting him at 4,600 at this point. Elfrid Payton looks really, really juicy to play in lineups tonight. I like him way better than a Graham. Way better than a Marcus Smart. I mean, you could go with a Kobe White as well, but I think Kobe White will be chalky. Malik Monk, don't like him too much. Like I said, Isaiah Thomas is out. Tyler Johnson didn't get many minutes. Um, Dennis Smith didn't look good. Tyus Jones still just wouldn't play him at that. He's. It's not like we've seen him priced like this before, to where he gets like 25 fantasy points. He gets you value. But if you want to value players, you got to get guys that want to, win you tournaments to have 7, 8x, and Elfrid Payton's in that spot to where, oh wait, what? Like 8x would represent around 30, 35 to 40 points, and he got 36 last time, and he wasn't even starting. So I think you just might as well just pay up 1,000 more for Elfrid Payton than the likes of like a Tyus Jones, Tyler Johnson, even a Jalen Brunson, who didn't play too many minutes. I just think, just don't waste your time with, even then. I know I say that you got to be ballsy sometimes, but I don't think it's too ballsy playing a Brunson. I think you be ballsy by playing a Damian Lillard instead of like Luka and company. Um, let's look at Emmanuel Mudiay. He'll probably be chalky. Don't want to fucking play Emmanuel Mudiay chalk, no. And then yeah, that's basically it. I don't like Chris Dunn because Satoransky could get more minutes. He's just going to be fighting minutes with them. So that's basically all we're going to be looking at for the big value for point guard. A lot of these guys are dual eligible too. So Bradley Beal. I mean, Bradley Beal's in a great spot against OKC. OKC was known as one of the worst teams against shooting guards for defense. So Bradley Beal could be a guy that you could jump on as well. They could pivot away from Luka, pivot away from Devin Booker. But I do like Donovan Mitchell for 900 less. I really do. It's competitive game. Zach LaVine as well for 7,400. Buddy Hield, we'll have to see what the deal is. Buddy Hield participate and will play. So Buddy Hield will play in that game. I still like Bogdanovich quite a bit, and we're going to look at him at 4,600 in a bit, because Bagley's a six man for them, and honestly, the Kings have pretty good depth to where they can have Bagley and Bogdanovich. Bogdan. I was pronouncing it right. Bogdanovich come off the bench, but I do like Donovan Mitchell and Zach LaVine if you're going to pay up at shooting guard. But if you're really going to pay up, maybe eat the chalk on Luka Doncic. But I think a nice pivot would be playing Bradley Beal. We saw him nearly get a triple double last time around. I mean, yeah, look, it almost had a double double. He'll score more points against OKC for sure. We could see a nice game for Bradley Beal for sure. Definitely like him more than Drew Holiday, Devin Booker, and maybe even Luka Doncic, because the usage you're going to get with him. Buddy Hield, Buddy Hield could be a good play tonight. I like SGA more because just I think shit. I mean, Buddy Hield looks like he's in a good spot though to play against Portland. He's played well. It's CJ McCollum defense, and it's not going to get really any better or any worse with Rodney Hood or Ken Bazemore. I mean, Bazemore is a better defender, but he's more of gets steals and stuff. Um, Again, SGA over Jamal Murray, CJ McCollum. I never want to play Andrew Wiggins. I just don't think he. I mean, the guy's washed, and he's just an overrated first overall pick, and people just play him because they want to just see Andrew Wiggins do good. Sorry, y'all, but he's just not doing it. He's one of the worst contracts in basketball, and there's a reason why Jimmy Butler left, and there's going to be a reason why Karl Anthony Towns leaves. RJ Barrett's right there as well. Don't like Fred Van Vliet nearly as much as everybody else does. Bacon looked good against Chicago, and now with what's his face, Batum. I mean, you could play him for sure. Will Barton, you could play against Phoenix. He looked good. Don't play Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown got paid, and he still didn't play that much. And what you'd imagine, I know that Cantor was active for last game, and you had the likes of a Jason Tatum, you had the likes of Marcus Smart playing more minutes. I just don't like this with Jaylen Brown. I like Jaylen Brown more when Gordon Hayward was sitting, because now Gordon Hayward's getting a lot of that usage that went away with Kyrie leaving, and yeah, I just don't like it nearly as much, and now Horford leaving. So. And also too, Dinwiddie's right there, Schroeder's right there at that point for dual eligibility. And don't like Dylan Wright, Joe Harris, Gary Harris. Still, just the usage isn't good. Gary Harris is more of one of those guys that you play on a 2-game slate, just not a huge, well, not a huge slate, but it's nine games compared to like the usual 11 to 12. JJ Redick, not really. Graham, not when you can play like Bogdanovich over like a Danny Green. Danny Green's not going to play like he did last time. Just don't play Danny Green. Don't chase points with Danny Green. And don't play Marcus Smart when you can play maybe a Kobe White as well if you can't afford to pay 4,600 and you got that extra, and you got 100 less, and you have to pick a player. I think you go with a Kobe White over Danny Green and Marcus Smart. Norman Powell I don't like. Blake Monk could be interesting to play. His minutes I think did go up in the second half when Batum wasn't playing. But still, then 17 minutes doesn't look too promising. Wouldn't play Dylan Brooks, Rodney Hood, and Bazemore interesting, but just even then, I just don't like it all too much. Let's see the minutes on these two. 25 minutes. I mean, Bazemore, yeah, and also to Rodney Hood, but Rodney Hood has to score like 20 points for him to hit his value. I just don't, especially with the other value players, just don't even. Those are guys that you don't play over the type of Robert Williams, Daniel Tice, whatever it is, Tyson Foods, whatever the fuck his name is, or even a Bishalisa or a Frank Kaminsky tonight. You just don't need to get cute with that. Just go ahead and play these guys that are value plays at $4,000 instead of those guys. Tim Hardaway didn't look good. Bradley didn't play all too much. Yeah, just not liking these other players as well. Caldwell Pope, he didn't score many points last time, but he still played 27 minutes. But I think if Rondo he's played 27 minutes, still had 5 fouls. But even then, his usage looked really, really down. Only shot the ball 3 times, so you don't have to play him, Caldwell Pope, or Chris Dunn. I don't even think Chris Dunn played too many minutes right there when Satoransky. Yeah, 24 minutes, and and that was 4 steals too. Still didn't get to value. So don't like that. And Josh Hart could be a really chalky value play tonight, but even in an overtime game, he played 28 minutes. I'd rather trust Lonzo Ball getting more minutes again, and that should eat into Josh Hart getting more minutes, because Josh Hart is going to be at more competition to get more minutes with, like Redick, Etuan Moore, Brandon Ingram right there, instead of Lonzo Ball is basically going to just get the minutes between him and, maybe losing some to Drew Holiday if they want to keep Drew Holiday on the floor for like a full 40 minutes, which is plausible. But let's go ahead. Look at small forwards. LeBron, just like we said, with more, he could come in at low ownership, and that might be a time to jump on him. But I think Utah. I think if Bojan Bogdanovic doesn't play, I think it actually makes the matchup harder for LeBron James. He's still a good defender, but Royce O'Neal will most likely be on him, and I think Royce O'Neal will probably play a decent amount of minutes. That's a guy you could probably look at for value at small forward. But I just get Gallinari you could possibly throw in as a punt play. I don't like Brandon Ingram at that price. Don't like Jason Tatum at that price. I think Siakam's just going to eat him up, especially when you play Buddy Hield right there over the likes of LeVert, Maybe you can play some Gordon Hayward. He will be playing at the 3 most likely. Just more of a comfortable position for him instead of like a stretch 4 that we see with Jason Tatum play. Kuzma's still out. Don't like Wiggins. You could go with the Miles Bridges, um, or Miles Bridges, but still the minutes weren't excellent right there. But he might have gotten more minutes just with the likes. But I still like Bacon more than that. But anyways, Kelly Oubre though, if you can play Kelly Oubre at 5,700, I think Oubre's still a good play at this. The same thing with Torian Price. There's no reason for me. I'm just not going to play these Charlotte guys, or especially not Wiggins. Never Wiggins. When you can have a Kelly Oubre or Torian Price at that price point. I think Torian Price is still a nice play to play right there. I mean, he's still going to at least get 6x on his value, up to 7x. I think it's around 7x. Yeah, 7 times 5.6. Give you 40 fantasy points. Had a double-double last game. And New York is a nice matchup again. We saw Rudy Gay have a good game against them, and Torian Price with those players out, I think he's going to have another good game. I do think it's interesting. Otto Porter, really, really cheap. I think you could fade Lauri Markkanen tonight. Don't chase the points. You can play Levine and Porter, and I think you're being a good spot for sure, because I think Porter could be a guy you could throw in 10, 20% of your lineups, and maybe he, hits a home run right there and gets you like not 10x, 8x, and you got a guy who now at 5,500 ends up getting you 45 fantasy points. It'd be nice. It'd be really nice. Marquise Morris, he played quite a bit. Maybe again, I think with Mitchell Robinson coming back, I just don't expect him to have nearly as many minutes because it's going to eat into him and Bobby Portis, a little bit of Julius Randle as well. So I think it's just a whole clusterfuck with New York. I think you just play Elfrid Payton and RJ Barrett, and then the rest of the guys you kind of just don't play. Well, Barton I said I liked more than than Jaylen Brown, of course. Batum is out. Barnes just doesn't do it for me. I know he's at 4,800 now, priced below what he was before. Now with Bagley out, but he's gonna get more minutes. What did he have? 32 last time. How many minutes? 30 minutes last time. Still just not getting it done scoring wise, and I think other players are going to come in and score points for him. And that was still with De'Aaron Fox getting a horrible, horrible game. So if De'Aaron Fox, don't think he's going to hit value tonight to play in lineups, but still though, I still think for the most part, you're just De'Aaron Fox isn't going to play that bad, and it's just going to eat into the scoring opportunity for Barnes. Jay Crowder's an ugly play to play for Memphis, but he could be a good play. Just the minutes, just under radar. Just play him, and he could get you at 6x, 7x. But I still like other players at that price point that you could play at point guard and everything like that, and you can play, play a little bit more up on price or a little bit down at price for like a Bisha Lisa. Dario Saric, I like. He's interesting. Like him more than Sederansky, JJ Redick. But I mean, again, Bogdanovich right there. It's just there's no point of being settling down with that, with the likes of a Barnes, a Joe Harris, even a Jay Crowder. When you can play a Saric and especially play a Bogdanovich, who's going to get even more minutes, and tons of usage with Bagley off. And I'll like it if he doesn't start with Buddy Hield starting, because Bogdanovich is going to get a ton of usage off the bench with Bagley out, because Bagley is one of their best players, and if one of your best players who comes off the bench comes out, it's like a starter and stuff like that, right? It makes the other starters better and have better usage when a big, good starter, like a consistent, like trusted starter with the team goes out, the usage increases with those guys. Well, when Marvin Bagley, a six man, gets injured, that increases more usage for the for the likes of like the other bench players like a Bogdanovich for Sacramento. So I like him, especially over Danny Green, Joe Ingles, Powell, Thaddeus Young, and Anunoby. I just don't like him. But Dylan Brooks, no. Not Kyle Anderson or Rodney Hood. Royce O'Neal is interesting. He's not going to have a great usage, but still, he was 6 for 6 in that game. Maybe he scores more than 14 points in that one, but that's a punt play for sure. More of a guy that you would play with 150 lineups. Again, just these other players I'm not liking all too much. I think Bishalisa is a power forward. So, so that's that. With that, I'm just not seeing any other players. Oh yeah, well look, We'll do honorable mention. I had this guy in every one of my lineups because I thought he would do well. He did have 5 personal fouls. He had to probably most likely guard Porzingis, and that's going to be a hard task. Doesn't really have too hard of a task if he's been playing the likes of Porzingis way better than any of the OKC bigs. So I think he'd go back to the well with Davis Bertans tonight. It's unfortunate. I don't think we saw Michael Porter play any in that game, first game of the season. And I would like Bertans more than Josh Hart at 3,200. I think Josh Hart's got to get double digits on rebounds, and I just don't like it. I just don't like it at all. Especially when you have bigger players on Dallas and everything like that that'll be able to get rebounds compared to what you know, when Marcus All plays away from the basket, it makes it easier for little guys to come on in and get rebounds. Anthony Davis could be an under the radar play because at his price point, he's around what Towns is at, 10,000. Julius Randle, hard to. I mean, it's a good matchup against Brooklyn, but it's hard to play him if Mitchell Robinson's going to be back. We'll see that. I do like Pascal at the same price point. I mean, he's priced up, but he's just had 67 points. 67 points. That's 8 times value at 8K. That's excellent. That he was in every one of my lineups on that two game slate, and I stacked up that New Orleans game, and I made some money that night because that's a contrarian move because everybody wanted to play the Clippers and Lakers game, prime time, first games of the season. Everybody wanted to watch that game while also having the fantasy goodness, and the attachment of having your lineups to it. But obviously, you got to take away your emotions when you deal with fantasy because that's how you win. Some people get too emotionally invested. I think Siakam's in another great spot. I think he's a player that you can play again on Toronto. Maybe Kyle Lowry, but I just don't like Van Vliet, especially with this 8,000 point right there, Lauri Markkanen. I think it's better to play Zach LaVine or Otto Porter instead of him. Porzingis is interesting um, at 7,000, but I think you could pay down for the value type guys tonight at those power forward positions, and then utilize the point guard, the shooting guard, and the guard slots. Maybe even utility if you want to play like 4 of those type value plays at 4 or 5K, for instead of playing value necessarily at the power forward position. I just don't like playing Porzingis tonight necessarily. I don't think he gets enough rebounds and everything like that. He plays away from the basket. He had a good game against Washington, but I think like Washington's a team that is in a way better spot to. But we did just see Siakam get 17 rebounds. Maybe Porzingis gets a double double tonight, so that's always interesting to see. It's always interesting. Gallinari, interesting spot against Washington. I think he could be in a good spot as well, but like him better than Brandon Ingram, like him more than Tatum, Thomas Bryant as well. Triple J, I'd rather play over Thomas Bryant. Definitely rather play him over Washington. I mean, Washington, right there at that price point. If he gets you 6x, it's around 39 points. But he had to make 7 3-pointers in that game. Um, and I think Robert Covington's going to guard him, which makes it a little bit harder for him to utilize that. I just don't like him in that spot. Fade him, especially if you can play Triple J or Hayward over him. Jared Allen is interesting. We saw him play all 5 minutes of overtime, and even then he had 31 minutes played in the game before. Maybe he gets a nice double-double against this Brooklyn Nets team, but Mitchell Robinson is a big dude to be dealing with down low, and but still, though, they're going to need Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan. But again, you can play Kelly Oubre in this power forward spot, and I like Oubre quite a bit. Wendell Carter is interesting. Just don't play Derek Favors ever. I just don't like playing Derek Favors ever. Wendell Carter, again, it's just hard to play some of these players. I know I was looking at game logs, but still, especially even play Torian Price right there. Serge Ibaka, they might need him against this Boston team, but even then, Boston might play small and just play quite a bit of Gordon Hayward and Jason Tatum. And maybe that's still more of the case for Gordon Hayward. I like Porter way more than Portis or Collins. Covington's interesting against Charlotte. He's one of those guys in Thibodeau's rotation that's going to get you quite a bit of minutes. So that's interesting. But even then, I don't know. But I think let's go ahead and put Bogdanovich. right there. I think that's a guy that now I do like the fact that Buddy Hield's going to play because then his ownership's not going to be as much. But looking at the power forward position down here, um, Bisha Lisa's right there at 3,600. Good play. I mean, obviously a good play um, against Portland at the 4. Better than Knox, better than Plumlee, better than Gibson. He's going to get more minutes than, RHJ. Definitely Marvin Williams. Rashawn Holmes is interesting, but I'd rather play Bisha Lisa because Rashawn Holmes uh, most likely had more minutes in that game because of a blowout. So I just don't like Rashawn Holmes nearly as much as a Bisha Lisa. Might as well just play Bogdanovich because if, Bisha Lisa goes to especially if Bisha Lisa goes to the they're not going to, the usage is going to be way easier for Bogdanovich if he gets to play with Rashawn Holmes over Bisha Lisa. So if Holmes starts, Bogdanovich's usage won't be nearly as high of a potential. But I think if Bisha Lisa's out of the bench and starts, then there's definitely a very, very good spot for Bogdanovich, and I'll play him in all my lineups. Again, Davis Bertans right there. So is Frank Kaminsky. I think Frank Kaminsky could be a guy that you can play in all your lineups as well. Um, he still had 19 minutes with Ayton in the lineup, and I know that was a blowout, but when you're looking at it, um, what was it? The other player, Baines. Baines didn't even play any minutes last game. So why do you expect Baines to automatically have 30 minutes in this game? And don't play any of these type of guys right here. I know Scalabca looked really, good in that position, but still though, just didn't play enough minutes. Karl Anthony Towns, he's going to be the chalky center of the slate, which is why I want to lock in this man. This will be for my 20 lineups. That will be my building block. They'll give me 4 players to switch in and out. And Bogdanovich is shooting guard and small forward eligible. So you can play the likes of, Schroeder instead at the shooting guard position and everything like that. I just like it. And that's setting it up because at center position, you're looking at these guys. Karl Anthony Towns is going to be chalky. Anthony Davis could be a guy that you could pivot on if you don't like Jokic. But let's look at Jokic's game log. Not because we're going to be chasing game log, but look at this: 24 minutes. He's in foul trouble. He still had a double double in 24 minutes, so he still had 20 and 13. And you would damn well imagine. I mean, think about it. At 9K, he almost got 5x at 9K, 5 times his salary in fantasy points, almost 45 points, and 24 minutes, which is nearly what? 2/3, 66, 67% of his playtime. What if he plays 35 minutes against the Suns? They had Hassan Whiteside, and he still had 13 rebounds against him and 20 points. How do you not anticipate this man just absolutely feasting on Phoenix? Play him and Damian Lillard, and you have a good chance to already have 160, 170 or sorry, 140 points in your lineup already, and then you have 6 other players to deal with that can get you, all you would need with 6 other players is 30 points each, and you already have 320 points in your lineup. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's all you need right there, and you're already in the top like 5% of any lineups in the entire tournament. Here we go. Anthony Davis, like I said, but Rudy Gobert has done well against LA and has played well and big against Anthony Davis before in the past, getting like nearly 20-20 games. Like him way more than Randall. Siakam, though, way more than Lauri Markkanen, Porzingis. And I think with Hassan Whiteside playing against Sacramento, it's a juicy matchup. I mean, I would like him more than Porzingis and Markkanen. Don't like Steven Adams right there, or Thomas Bryant, or Jonas. Triple J, definitely better than Washington. Jared Allen, I would maybe go with, but just fade Washington tonight. Zach Collins, don't like him. Marcus Gasol's interesting, but even then, they just don't have to go. I mean, I just think it's more so Siakam. Millsap's in a good spot, but even then, I just feel like you just go ahead and, he still had a really good, solid game right there, nearly getting 6x. He got 6x of his price at 4,900. I mean, it's a good spot. There wasn't even his ceiling game right there, so you could play him. JaVale McGee will probably be needed more in this game, but Dwight Howard was in foul trouble, so more minutes did go to JaVale. And the Clippers are more of a small team. Zubac doesn't, Zubak played more in that game, but still, though, they'll need these guys to play against Rudy Gobert in that spot. So I think you get to play those guys, punt those guys a little bit. I know DeAndre Jordan just wasn't favored in that game. Look at only 17 minutes in a game that was, 126, 127 in overtime. Still, I just don't like playing DeAndre Jordan, even though it's a juicy price right there for him. You can play JaVale around the same, and same thing with Dwight Howard if you want to punt with it. Dwayne Dedman, though, looks like the guy that people might not recognize to get quite a bit more minutes, and they might need his size quite a bit to face Hassan Whiteside. So what people were, I liked him last time, and I thought he was going to play Phoenix well, and Phoenix isn't good down low, and he played well for 14 minutes. If he doubles that, I mean, he's got 26 fantasy points. That's already 6x, and he could hit a ceiling game against a Portland team to where they're going to need his size. And I like him more than Maxi Kleber because Kleber just doesn't, or Kleber, whatever the fuck you want to say, just doesn't have that ceiling. This Plumlee, Gibson, Holmes, I just don't like anyways either. I'd like Dedman more than Holmes in that game to play more because they can play Bisha Lisa at the 4. Holmes, they could probably plug in at the 5, but still, though, I just like Dedman more, and I think Dedman took the hit in the minutes because the game was blowing out. So that's basically, that's basically it. I think Frank the Tank is already in that lineup, so he's already there, way better than. I mean, Bojan's be playing a smaller New Orleans team. Don't like him nearly as much to be played. I don't even think he played that many minutes. Yeah, he didn't even play that game. They didn't need him. They didn't need him. Um, Moritz Wagner had 17 minutes, but Bertans, just play Bertans over him. Same price, and everything nice. I just think that's the better play to play. But if you got Tice down here, Tice had 10 minutes, and now that Cantor's out, let's see how many minutes Cantor had in that game. So let's see how many minutes are going to be going. So 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if that game is closer. So 30 minutes, but let's just go to the 25. That's going to be depending quite a bit between Robert Williams and Tice. I think Tice could score you more points. I think Robert Williams can definitely give you more blocking potential. Probably give you 8 points just from blocks in this game. So it's interesting. But I think Robert Williams might be the better play than Tice tonight. But they're going to be chalky for sure. Whoever starts that game. But these are 4 players. I'm saying you play Jokic, you play Lillard, and you already have leverage on the entire field tonight. Maybe you play Towns in 10, 20% of lineup still just in case to catch it if he gets that 80-point game again. Because Charlotte's not going to know what to do with him. It's just for building purposes. You're going to have to throw in a lot of 3K guys, and I'm not too comfortable with that. You still have 6,000 remaining, and let's say you play a Towns right here. Let's go to Towns. Anthony. Nope. Where are you at? Oh, yeah, it's Boston. That's why. So you got Towns. You still have 4,400 left. Let's see what we can do here. Let's do Schroeder. Let's do Bogdanovich. Peyton. And then at 3,800, bam. You can play Bisha Lisa if you feel comfortable with that. And maybe those are a couple players that you can go in and out with some of these guys too. So Schroeder, 5K. You can play Dinwiddie right there. Same price. Throw it in. Bam. You got those guys right there. Or hey, you want to play Schroeder as well over him, but still wouldn't be as pivoting of a lineup. But still, we'll see. Let's see. So we take this away. So yeah, that's basically what you play Peyton. Let's say what you want to do with the likes of this position right here. Maybe you play Bazemore if you feel like or something, but I still feel like Bisha Lisa is the play right here. And then you could do Ish Smith and Ish Bish. And then 4,700. you can play at the shooting guard position. Let's see right here. Colby White. There you go. And you already got Ish Smith in there. So now, with that, you already have a pivoting player. You've already pivoted with Jokic. You've already pivoted with Lillard. That's enough for you to definitely have a decent lineup setting up with this. I'm starting to get hard just looking at some of this stuff. So even if you have Towns in your lineup and Bisha Lisa, and you still can pivot with, and Kobe White, you can still pivot with an Ish Smith, with a Jokic, with the Lillard tonight. So I like the lineups quite a bit. As always, fellas, take care. Be grateful for everything that comes to y'all. I really appreciate support and everything, fellas. Hopefully this was a cool little twist and everything. Maybe this gets you to put a dollar in 4 quarter lineups tonight. Um, who knows? But I did like that setup right there. It looked quite nice. I did like it quite a bit. So as always, fellas, take care. Have a good one. Be grateful for everything that comes to you, and we'll see you next.